It was a hot, sunny day in Cape Town, South Africa, and I was standing next to one of the most notorious gang leaders in Cape Town. This man was the leader of more than 3,000 gang members. I'd also learned that this gang leader had survived 3 assassination attempts. The most recent one took place below his apartment, in the courtyard. And where was I standing? In the courtyard. My friend and I were standing next to each other, trembling as this gang leader was conversing with my father. He then looked over and said, "Kom ons gaan boe voor hulle vir ons skiet. Let's go upstairs before they shoot us." Okay. Now, who of you have been to Cape Town, South Africa? Show of hands. Many of you. Those of you who have been have probably been there as a tourist. You've probably enjoyed some of the most exceptional beaches. Table Mountain, one of the top 10 wonders of the world. Now, I've lived, studied, and worked in Cape Town the last 10 years, and I've come to know a different side to Cape Town. The not-so-sexy side. The other side of Table Mountain, where my father was born and grew up. See, I see Cape Town as the city of 2 worlds. And it's most evident to me when I fly into Cape Town and land at Cape Town International Airport. Because on our descent, while most people are taking photos of Table Mountain or bracing themselves for the turbulence, I look down and I see one of Cape Town's largest informal settlements, Shackland, home to 2 million people. It's called Khayelitsha. Next to Khayelitsha is a place called Mitchell's Plain, one of Cape Town's biggest ganglands, one of many, home to 1.5 million people. Now, Khayelitsha and Mitchell's Plain form part of what locals call the Cape Flats, or the flatlands of the Cape Peninsula. And the Cape Flats were socially engineered for people classified as colored. Now, for those of you who don't know, colored people look like me, a few shades lighter and a few shades darker. And colored was a label given to us by the oppressive apartheid regime at the time. Colored is a term I despise because of its negative connotations. Now, I don't mean to steer you away from Cape Town as a tourist destination, but I thought it would be useful for me to share some facts with you to give you the context in which I do some of my work as creative director of the Ruben Richards Foundation. Now, as you know and have experienced, Cape Town is one of the most beautiful, but also one of the most violent cities in the world. It is currently ranked as the #1 murder capital of the world, with an average of 57 murders a day. It is estimated that 1 in 7 colored males end up in prison. Gangland is home to between 100,000 to 200,000 youth signed up as gang members. That is triple the number of South African Defence Force soldiers in the whole of South Africa. Now, as mentioned, I work with a non-profit organization, and I contribute to the healing and peace-building process by using art as a medium of dialogue. For example, theater-based workshops. So how was I standing next to a gang boss? Well, my father, Dr. Ruben Richards, founder of the Ruben Richards Foundation, had negotiated the longest ceasefire in the history of gang violence on the Cape Flats. And let's just say we were requested. We had spent 2 hours with this man, and he told us his life story, how at the age of 13, he was caught for stealing, thrown in jail, and had to make a life-altering decision to literally kill to survive or become a victim of the system. Years later, he sits in front of me telling me that he is still a victim of the system, that there is no way out for him other than death. This is the code that he signed. Blood is spilt to get in, and blood is spilt to get out. Now, kids are recruited in these gangs from as young as 10 years old. And it's attractive for them to be in these gangs because it gives them a sense of belonging. They're recognized. I mean, that's a basic human need. Imagine you're 10 years old and you see your brother in a gang and you want to be in that gang. So what do you got to do to get in the gang? You got to prove yourself. So you got to steal something. But now you want to move up in the ranks. So you got to do something else. Rob someone. Next step, stab someone. Next step, shoot someone. Final step, kill someone. A simple career path. And success is rewarded. And this gang leader, that's what he did. He killed his way to the top. And he was rewarded. And now more than 25 years later, he sits as the big boss, the main man, the kingpin. But the twist in the tale is that he doesn't want to be there anymore. He's made a change. We drove away from gangland, and I was just filled with a sense of relief. A few minutes later, I was filled with a deep sense of sadness because I realized I could have been one of those kids. I could have been this man in another life. That feeling of sadness was overpowered by a sense of responsibility. We needed to tell his story. But how? How do you capture the emotion of hope in a context where the bullet is more powerful than the pen? And so my friend and I co-wrote and performed a piece of theater which gave voice to the dialogue between this gang leader and his therapist, based on a true story. To this day, the gang leader sees a psychologist with the help of the foundation. The play was about the challenges facing a criminal gang boss when he decides to turn his back on the criminal underworld. The play was about hope, about affirming that change is possible. Now, with the help of my father's foundation, we raised funds to bus thousands of school kids out of gangland and into the theater. And after each rendition of the play, the foundation would facilitate discussions between the council and community leaders and teachers in the midst and in the presence of these school kids. We then asked them to critically analyze the play. And suddenly, we stumbled upon a new form of dialogue with this community. Now, side note, my father had to negotiate with the gang bosses to allow these buses to go in and out of the community without shooting at it. But the play was successful. It won a National Theatre Award, and based on the feedback from the audience, we realized that there was a real need for this conversation. So we've set a new goal: to impact the lives of 1 million Cape Flats residents with the play and this new form of dialogue. And we call it Project 1 Million. But what did I learn from meeting a gang boss? I learned that no matter who you are or what you've done, we all have the capacity for change. I walked into that situation fearful, rightly so, but I also viewed him as a monster. And after talking with him, I walked away and I realized that he was a human being with a capacity for change. In conclusion, I realized that in the digital age, we can talk about peace building for hours. And thousands of people can click the like button on Facebook and feel like they've contributed to peace building. And perhaps they have. But if there's no action behind the word, #peace just becomes another word in the modern era and algorithm. So let's not forget that peace building is actually really difficult, that it's uncomfortable, and it requires action and a bit of money. So if any of you have £1 million, let me know. Thank you.